Okay. This is actually not very simple at all to do for me, but, anyways. So, let's talk anxiety, shall we? I could have done like I did, like what has been done with the others, and just, like, gotten a YouTube video or whatever, something random. But, to like, describe what it's like. But, the way I think is best to make people understand is speaking from someone who lives with it every day, which I do. So, everything I'm saying here is based off of my experiences, so keep that in mind, and keep in mind that these disorders, the symptoms vary a lot between individual people. Different people have different manifestations, I guess is the best way to put it. So, try to understand that while I'm talking, and also understand that sometimes it is really, really difficult to put what's going on in your head into actual words. So if it sounds weird, that's probably why. Because sometimes what's going on up here doesn't necessarily translate into something that you can put into words. So, personally, I have 3 different anxiety disorders myself. Well, 2 regular anxiety disorders and then one that's not actually considered one anymore. Anyways, I have non-transitional anxiety disorder, I have social anxiety disorder, and I have PTSD. So, I would basically describe anxiety when it's coming from these disorders as a little person who is trapped inside of your skull, and they are the biggest chicken on the planet because they panic if you blink wrong and start running around screaming inside of your skull around in circles. So, and a lot of physical things can happen when they start doing that you don't like either. And they will just keep running around in circles screaming until I get it back, basically get it back together. What in the world happened here? Where did I put my other card? Okay, whatever. Sorry. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Basically, they'll just run around like non-stop until I am able to redirect the panic attack again, which sometimes can take a while. So, what's what? A lot of people really haven't heard of the non-transitional because it's no longer called non-transitional. It more falls under your generalized anxiety. However, in my medical records, it still was called non-transitional anxiety disorder, so I don't know why it's not in the books, but it's definitely a real thing. Essentially, it is an extreme, and very irrational fear of change. Now, I don't mean the kind of change like changing your underwear change. That happens enough times that it doesn't trigger it. However, the things that do trigger it are major changes, like if somebody abruptly changes plans, if we're trying to move to a different house, if I try to rearrange things in my room, or something like that. Basically, anything you would consider a major life change, or like a plan change or something like that, is enough to trigger it and send me into a complete and total freak out if I'm not careful. Basically, the only way to really handle that is people need to give me time to adjust to these changes before they actually happen. If you just throw them at me, I'm going to shut down completely. Now, I know that change is sometimes stressful for people normally, but for someone like me, it's like that difficulty amplified by like a million. It is really hard. So basically the best way to handle that one is just to allow me to, adjust, get used to the idea. If you don't give me that adjustment period, you're not going to really like the consequences, because you're not going to get any kind of cooperation. You're probably going to have a freak out or two. It can be really embarrassing sometimes, actually. Now, social anxiety, I'm sure lots of people have this problem. It's the best way I can describe it, speaking from a personal point of view here, is it's a really irrational fear of people, just in general. Ignore the background noise. I have family members. Anyways, with me, it's any social interaction or even physical contact with people who are not known in my immediate social circle. So that means close friends, my family, and my fiance are basically the only people who really can get away with touch. And you have to be a really, really close friend if you're a friend. So basically, unless you're my family or you're my fiance, just don't touch me. Bad idea. And any kind of social interactions, trying to deal with large groups of people, like if I'm in a crowded grocery store, oh my gosh. Don't even get me started on the grocery store. Big crowds, trying to talk to people, that's why I'm doing these videos, because as I'm sure the teacher remembers, my ability to directly address groups of people is just, large groups of people like this is just, no. It didn't end well last time I tried to do it without actually doing a video, and so I just do these videos instead. I'm sorry, my train of thought just completely derailed. Hang on. Where was I? Oh yeah. Anyways, triggers for social anxiety. Unexpected touches. Well, actually, wait, back up. Any kind of physical contact from somebody who I don't necessarily know. Like, I'll shake hands with you, but I don't do the huggies, I don't do anything like that. Touch is just, like, kind of a no-go with me. Also, like I said, with the grocery store, if it's like, I end up going like in the early mornings, because the crowds just are like enough to really cause a problem. Anyways, social anxiety means that I have trouble with social interaction, and I have trouble basically dealing with people, unless they're a family member or my fiance, of course. And actually that's gotten worse recently due to circumstances that have happened. And that leads me to the PTSD part. And so, since I'm mentioning it now, I'm not going to include a video on the part that says PTSD symptoms. So, just in case anybody wondered, that's why that's not there. Anyways, the PTSD, it's kind of complicated. I'm not going to really go into what caused it, because, well, it's kind of traumatic to even hear about it for some people, so I'm not going to even go into it. It covers a lot of different stuff, including physical symptoms of sickness, so I'll just kind of go over what things can trigger it, and then I'll try to describe what happens to me, even though that's actually really hard unless you've actually experienced it for yourself to make someone understand. So, the things that I said that tend to set me off basically here. Right now, the social anxiety actually has gotten worse, because the PTSD makes me incredibly paranoid, and therefore I just have trouble trusting, especially if I'm not familiar with you. I've always had social anxiety. However, it's actually gotten worse because of the PTSD. So, also, I love dealing with animal rescue groups. I love dealing with supporting animal rights, blah, blah, blah. But I have to be really careful when I'm going through that stuff, like online, because if I see something where someone harmed this is an example of one of those things that's actually really specific, of like a young cat, especially a black cat, that got hurt, it will send me into a complete and total freak out. Like, I know that's unpleasant for anybody to see, but it's 1,000 times worse on me because of something that happened that's directly related to the PTSD. Also, if somebody unexpectedly reaches for me or touches me, like I mentioned before, I will either jump or I will completely flip out at you. It depends on how bad the reaction actually was to begin with. And sometimes I actually really tick people off because I get jumpy. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. You freak out at random for nothing, but other people are kind of going to look at you funny about. I know I get lots of weird looks because I freak out at random. So what's a panic attack? Really, really complicated. So I'll try to narrow things down a little bit, but it's really hard to make somebody understand unless they've actually experienced it for themselves. Just speaking from my point of view, my asthma kind of goes into overdrive. Like, my heart rate will go sky high. Kind of like you ran a marathon is the best way I can describe it. I feel sick to my stomach. My hands will shake. And the most frustrating thing of all is the almost irresistible urge to run away. And since when these things happen, I don't always have the option of getting away from it. It can turn to anger rather than a fear reaction, and I can get really crabby. Just because I can't get away. And that little person in my head that I told you about basically is going berserk. Before anybody says anything, I cannot actually take the medications because I was put on Zoloft when I was younger, and to make it simple, I got turned into a homicidal maniac. So yeah. Anyways, I can't do that. So basically for me, it's just managing the symptoms when they happen. It's basically now become a part of life for me. I'm really used to dealing with it because it's been around so long. It's interfering, it's irritating, it's kind of sneaky and random, but it's always there. There's no cure for it, there's no way to fix it, it's just there. The damage has already been done, basically, is the best way I can put it. And I've been dealing with it my entire life now, so yeah. And then, like I said, this kind of sounded scatterbrained, I'm sure, but I'm sorry, my train of thought keeps derailing. That didn't do any good, turning away. Speaker's right in front of my face. Anyways, that's basically all I could come up with for this. I hope it was enough. I mean, like I said, this is not something you can easily discuss with people who may or may not necessarily actually have experienced anything like it, you know? And like I said, it's always different for other people, so like I said, I just hope this made sense because, like I said, it was kind of hard to actually open up about it, but since it applies to what's going on, I figured I would share my stuff, I guess. Anyways, that's all for now. For this one, I'll go ahead and move on to the next thing. Onwards to the next disaster, I suppose.